Hi there, and a very happy Easter to you. I hope you're not stuffing your face with too much chocolate today. Today I thought I'd start a series of smaller videos discussing the lay the field strategy. This is a very well-known strategy within the horse racing trading community. Although it's not limited to horse racing, you can use it in any market. I've used it in cricket, I've used it in tennis, I've used it in rugby union, although I'm not sure it would work very well in the correct score markets of football matches. But that's perhaps a story for another day. I'm sure you're all familiar, or at least have heard of lay the field, but for those who are not familiar, let me just quickly summarise what it is. As its name suggests, you're laying every runner in the market. You lay them all at the same price. Traditionally, you don't need to, but you lay them all at the same price for all the same stake. Take those bets in running, hope that more than one of them get matched to guarantee you a profit. Your risk there is if you don't have enough of them matched, you will lose your stake, or you lose your liability. Setting it up in Fairbot is very simple. With your market open, click on back lay operations, lay all. Make sure your live option here is switched off, and then you need to set your stake and your odds. So for this particular point, I'm going to use 1.5 odds, and I'm going to use a stake of 200. Now the reason for that is at odds of 1.5, that will give me a liability of £100. And that's simply to tie in with my back betting. I use £100 for my back betting, so it just keeps the same. The only thing with this dialog here is there isn't a way to configure your bets as a liability. So if you change the odds here, you'll see that the profit and loss changes if you keep the stake the same, so you'd need to adjust that accordingly to adjust your profit and loss. For the purposes of this exercise, we'll keep it to 1.5, set the odds, and I'll set that to 200 so that my liability in this situation is going to be 100. Now, at those odds, if I have two runners, you'll see that I will get a profit of £100 if both of those bets are matched. So that's my only risk when there is only one bet matched. If I have more bets matched, I increase my profit. So anything after two bets is a major bonus. Okay? So what you need to do is you need to select all of the runners, and you submit those, and they're configured to keep by making sure that the keep option is switched on here. Put them to keep if you're placing this Dutch before the off, because these bets have to be taken to give in running for them to have a chance of being matched. You can of course wait for the race to start and then manually submit them after the race is started, and that's fine. Now at the moment we've configured this for this race as 5 furlong race, and certainly conventional wisdom within the trading community would suggest that this is best suited to sprints, competitive sprints ideally, with quite a few number of runners, although obviously you can use it on any race. However, this isn't a global holy grail, if you like. It doesn't work on every race, simply because of the way the market develops within the race itself. Conventional wisdom suggests only sprints. However, I've actually had better results in longer races. In fact, my best ever result doing this was in a jumps race at Musselburgh, where the long-term leader in the race was matched, and then he fell at the third last fence. The subsequent leader after that was automatically matched because of that fall, but he fell at the next fence. And then the next leader was matched, and he clattered into the last fence and was overtaken by the next two horses. So I actually had 5 horses matched in that race at odds on, and so that was a major result. So it can work in your favour, but again, this is not a global panacea. You can't apply it to every market, so it's really up to you to do some research to find out which types of races are best, um, which courses are best, and so on. I'll not divulge all that information. However, what I would do is look out for sprint races over the all weather. If they're going round a bend, I would avoid them. There's a little tip for you. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to skip ahead. We'll let this race go in running and see how we get on. Okay, we're back again, and this race is about to start. 5 furlongs, so it should only take 60 seconds or so. Keeping in mind that we've laid for 1.5, so we need 2 runners to be matched at those odds. But you don't need to lay odds on. You can lay at any price, but that determines how many runners you need to be matched. The easiest way of doing it is if you take the odds that you want and round it up to the nearest integer, that gives you the number of runners that need to be matched. So 1 point something, round it up to 2, you need 2 runners to either scratch or make a profit. 2 point something, round it up to 3, you need 3 runners, and so on. It's up to yourself. Of course, the higher the odds, the less profit you'll make, assuming that all of those runners that you need are matched. Conversely, the lower the odds, the greater the profit that will be returned from all your matched runners. The issue is still the same, however. Keep in mind that if you don't get enough runners being matched within the race, you will ultimately lose on that race, and it's not suitable to every race. So you need to do your research in terms of race courses, race types, and so on and so forth. So this 5 furlong race at Newbury, they're just loading up, so they should be underway fairly shortly, and you'll see these, hopefully a number of these being taken as the race progresses. But generally speaking, it's not until the race is up at the business end that things will happen. So we've got an actually odds-on favourite in this race, and generally speaking you may not necessarily want to go that route. You perhaps want a more competitive race when you're doing this. It can work either way, to be perfectly honest. Every time I've seen this or done this, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other sometimes. So you see there our odds-on favourite halfway through the race has already drifted up to the mid-3s. So although it's theoretically possible that every runner in the race will be matched, it's not likely to happen. And there you have actually quite a good result. We've got 2 matched. We nearly got a third one matched, but there you are. We have a profit. Now I should point out that you'll see we had odds of 1.5. There's a slight difference. This is because I'm in simulation mode in Fairbot. Fairbot has to estimate if your bet is going to be matched at the odds you've specified. Whereas in the real world, and this is why you should test in simulation mode, then test in real mode before you start ramping up stakes and so on. In real mode, the stakes that we placed as the bets, that money would be sitting in the market, and as the market comes through, all of that money would be taken at those odds. Whereas in simulation mode, Fairbot has to estimate how much of that money would have been taken in the market. That's why you get slightly different odds rather than all at 1.5. Anyway, that's how you go about setting up lay the field manually. We can of course do it with a strategy, and lay the field is clearly an easy strategy to set up. So rather than coming up here and fiddling around with all these settings here, we can set up a strategy, and I've actually already done that. If we switch to automation, go to strategy editor, I've set up a demo LTF, and this rule here essentially does exactly the same as I did earlier on. Okay, lay the field. It's going to go in 5 seconds after the race starts. I could easily have done it before. The action is back lay all at lay bet at fixed odds of 1.5. This is where you can specify a lay stake as the liability, which you can't do within that dialog box I showed you earlier on. So lay stake liability for £100. We don't need fill or kill because it's going to be in running, and we need them to be sitting there to be taken. There's no need to assign any conditions, and that's it. So that's the strategy we have. So of course, with your race selected, and it's easy enough simply to select that strategy from the list, which is a lot easier than going in and doing it for every race. And of course, as you've seen in other videos, you can add a number of races into the watch list. Ignore that one, I did that earlier on today. Add more into the watch list, and of course, as you've seen before, we can select any number of races and assign the corresponding strategy. So that's going to run for 2 races now. Okay, now this next race, where are we? It's a 2-mile race, which, as I mentioned earlier, wouldn't necessarily be recommended by the trading community, but let's just let it see it happen. I'll actually come into this race when it's halfway through. Okay, back shortly. Okay, back again, and joined this race halfway through. All their bets are in, but they haven't been matched as yet. It shouldn't be too long now. This video is actually a good 5 minutes longer than I thought it would be, so I'm going to finish after this race, and we will resume in part 2, which probably won't drop until midweek, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, let's just see how many of these we get matched. As mentioned earlier, generally speaking, longer races don't work very well unless it's a very close race. I mean, but you know, in the longer races, you quite often get a front runner who just essentially runs away with it, and the other ones never get down low enough to be matched. But we're just a minute to go before the end of this race, more or less. So hopefully we should see 1 or 2 of our runners starting to be matched. Now keep in mind that you don't need to lay at odds on. You can lay at any place. It just affects the number of runners that you need to be matched. But we'll look into that in more detail in subsequent editions. So it looks like the favourite is going to get matched pretty soon. Oh, tell a lie, it was another one that got matched. So we need the favourite to come down and get matched. And it doesn't look like he's going to. Okay, now in actual fact, this next one at Southall's just about to start. Oh, it's already been done. So you see our bets are in. It's already off. Now this is a more typical race that you would look at, although this is on the this one's at Southall, a fairly competitive looking race over only 7 furlongs. So we see this one down towards the bottom getting matched. This one up here may be getting matched soon. Needs to come in a bit. No, it looks like Forbearing has gone on to win, so that would be a loser. But you can see in this particular case, as far as Fairbot in simulation mode is concerned, it got matched at 1.3. In the real world, that would have been matched at 1.5. So that's the drawback with working in simulation mode. It has to estimate whether all your stake would have been taken at particular odds. So just keep that in mind. But in terms of the principle behind the whole thing, it is sound. So, but you still need to test it in real mode. Now, before I leave you, to go on to the next part. Have a look at this video again. So you've got 3 races to choose from. See if you notice anything significant. You didn't think I was going to give you homework today, did you? Have a look at the video again, see if you notice anything significant, and drop a comment down below. In the meantime, keep an eye out for part 2. Cheers.